Hi, and welcome to my sewing room. My name's Leah, and I'm on week 45 of my UFO challenge, where I've challenged myself to sew on my unfinished projects for at least 15 minutes a day. This past week, I've still been working on my orange spiderweb quilt. As I mentioned last week, I didn't do any sewing on Wednesday. I also didn't do any sewing on Saturday, so I was down 2 days, so I only had 5 days of sewing. But I did manage to squeeze in a few extra minutes on Monday and Tuesday, and I still got a lot of progress done. So let me walk you through with what I did. I started the week by trimming up row 2. That's always one of those steps that doesn't look super exciting on camera, but it makes such a big difference on how everything fits together later on. Nice clean edges make sewing the next row so much easier. After that, I added the space between rows 1 and 2, and then I sewed those 2 rows together for each of the remaining 7 sections. It's one thing to look at piles of fabric, but when you start joining them together, it really starts to feel like progress. It felt great to finally see those sections start to take shape and build out the center. Next, I worked on making triangle pairs for the octagon blocks. I decided to focus on these units individually because each one has a nice solid 90-degree angle to work from. Since I'm dealing with a lot of bias edges, I wanted to make sure everything stayed stable and lined up correctly. As long as I could keep that right angle consistent, I knew the rest of the pieces would fall into place. It really helped me feel like I was staying on track and keeping those tricky bias edges under control. Once most of the pairs were ready, I laid out the triangles to make sure everything was lined up just right. Since there are so many rotating triangles, and that repeating dark light pattern, it really helps to see them all in the correct order before I start sewing. Laying them out lets me double check the placement and make sure the overall flow of the design looks balanced. It's one of those steps that takes a few extra minutes, but it saves so much time later and keeps the whole project on track. And it eliminates time with my seam ripper. Even though I didn't have a full 7 days of 15-minute sewing, I'm still happy with the progress I made. And with the progress I made last week, I'm even closer to getting a finished quilt top. Next week, I'll have to stick to my 15 minutes a day again, because I have 2 more main projects that I need to finish up. I'm working on my mini bolt challenge that I want to finish up by Thanksgiving, and I also am working on my project for the 2025 virtual cookie exchange hosted by Carol of Just Let Me Quilt. That one's due December 1st. Next week, knowing that I only have about 15 minutes a day, I'm going to focus on finishing up that mirror image triangle of the main triangle that I already have sewn. I should definitely be able to get that finished. Well, that's it for week 45. I'm feeling really good about lining up those triangles and getting those 90 degrees under control. It's really helping me with my bias edges. What tips do you have for when you work with bias edges? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. Thanks so much for following along, and until next time, happy sewing.